There is a clear connection between the three major events that took place in South Asia in 1984 between the Sikhs on the one hand and the Indian nation state on the other. All three major events were termed operations by the Indian nation state. Blue Star, of which is known about quite widely, the invasion of the Darbar Sahib at Amritsar. Woodrow's, of which much less is known, but was an incursion into other key gurdwara around the state at the same time and for months afterwards. Finally, Operation Shanti, which was an overall attack that was targeting Sikhs across the nation and was meant to be a final solution. That particular operation never took place, but what we do know is that it was planned, and some have argued that the events of Delhi that took place in November following the assassination of Indira Gandhi were a smaller version of the operation that was slanted as Shanti. All three of these were termed operations and have a key thread running through them, which is best depicted by the anthropologist Joyce Pettigrew, who, when talking about Operation Blue Star, described it as being the suppression of the culture of a people, attacking their heart and striking a blow at their spirit and self-confidence. All three of these operations did that. All three involved the invasion and taking control of key gurdwara. Whether it was in Delhi in November, whether it was throughout the months of the summer across the Punjab from Patiala to Ludhiana and everywhere in between, or whether of course it was in June itself when the Holy Darbar Sahib and the Akal Takht were brought under Indian Armed Force control. There was of course elsewhere the stopping of Sikhs from rallying at key positions like Anandpur, but again of course the Darbar Sahib complex itself, which historically had been the place that Sikhs would come to. And then of course there was the overall arching aim that came through in all three major events, the curtailing of Sikh activism that had been rife for over a decade prior to the year of 1984. Throughout all three operations, if we want to use their terminology, there was a media blackout and a control on what was being put out, not only in India, but worldwide, in European press, North American broadcast, and everything else in between. There were forced entries put onto Sikh households under the guise of curtailing terrorist activity. And then, most notably and distressingly, were the extrajudicial killings that took place, not only during Blue Star, but during Woodrow's most prominently, and then of course through the event that came to represent what Shanti was. The fact that all three of these events have been disconnected from one another shows that we, even as Sikhs, have not understood them, let alone the rest of the world understanding what took place. We don't like to term them as operations. It was an invasion of the Darbar Sahib. And yes, while using that terminology is correct for us, what we have to keep in mind is that takes us away from the sheer level of planning and strategy that was involved with tackling the Darbar Sahib, with taking out Sikhs across the entire Punjab, preventing them from coming into Amritsar. And then, of course, annihilating an entire people who number in the millions across the subcontinent. That disconnection of the three events and not looking at them in unison brings a focus instead on the personalities, whether it's Sant Jarnail Singh in June or whether in November it's the likes of Jagdish Taitla and HKL Bhagat, who were involved in orchestrating the genocide across Delhi of Sikhs. And of course, most importantly, by disconnecting all three events, we do not allow reparations, we do not allow retaliation, and we do not allow redress to take place in any cohesive matter. It should come as no surprise that Sikhs worldwide are beginning to wake up now, some 30 years after those events, to look at what avenues are open to us to try and rectify the situation. But perhaps, to some extent, it is already too late. These three major events that are now culminated and depicted by this one word of 1984 has become a bogey word. and has become an all-encapsulating word that people use to switch off, when in fact it should be a word used to switch on.